Hi, and a very good evening to everyone here. First of all, I would like to thank Mr. Samuel for coming here and giving out your time with us to spend with us. Before I pass this mic to him, I would like to introduce him to everyone here. Mr. Samuel is actually an alumni of UTM itself, graduating in Bachelor of Architecture class of 2006. He actually has ventured across architectural professional practice and property developer throughout his 11 years in Malaysia, Singapore, and also China. Started off in Singapore's RT+Q architects. Samuel Wong has joined Aedas Shanghai for a short period before landing his job as design manager for CapitaLand's Raffles city in Hangzhou, China. With his experience in both developer and architecture consultancy, Samuel will be sharing his experiences and observation under the topic Long March in Architecture. With that, please welcome Mr. Samuel Wong.
Can you hear me? I mean, from behind? Yes. I think if not, if can, then I'm just not using the mic. Yeah. Okay. Wow, so I'm back to UTM after 11 years. Yeah, a lot of memories, in fact, came to my mind when I drove in, coming into the campus, then I saw the building, the car park. I mean, I still can remember, luckily I still can remember how I get to the faculty. So it's been 11 years, so yeah. So I'm 11 years of your senior, so if you are graduating this year. So I'm graduated in 2006. So actually for this coming, I'm glad that, I mean, Doris invited me here. She asked me whether I'm interested to come back. Then I just thought, why not? I mean, it's good because I've been away from UTM for many years. So I think it's a good opportunity for me to meet up with the students, the lecturers, and even to see the campus. It's been a long time since I depart from UTM. So I just took this opportunity, and hopefully this afternoon will be a meaningful session for me and also for you. So for this sharing, a long march in architecture, basically I'm going to share about my experience, not too long. My experience is not too long, it's just about 11 years. But I'm going to share from the start of my journey, I mean after graduated from UTM in 2006, right up to now. So I'm going to also tell you frankly about the ups and downs and the kind of frustrations and also some excitements, frustration, and ups and downs in life in architecture that I'm going to share with you in my presentation. So that's why I put it long march. So in this presentation, I shared it I think 2 months ago in KL, but that is actually more focusing on my China experience. My experience in China for my past 7 years. So today I'm going to also slot in my experience in Singapore so that you can get a picture, I mean from small buildings right up to big buildings, and the kind of challenge, the kind of lessons that we can learn from small buildings and also from big buildings. Okay. Okay. So I enrolled in architecture in 1999. So Doris was actually my classmate, but we graduated in different times because during that time we have a 6 years programs, 3 years of diploma and 3 years of degree. So after diploma, 3 years, I went off to work for a while. So that's why I'm actually just now someone was asking which batch are you from. Actually, I started off with monochrome, but I ended up in raw, ROAR. So the kind of what I like about UTM is about the multicultural, because I came from Ipoh, and Ipoh city center, and I went to Chinese school, so there were not many chances that I mingle around with Malay friends. But in UTM, I get to know a lot of Malay, and I get to know a lot of, I like, why I came back to Malaysia is also because I like it being a multicultural, it's very diversified country. So this is the kind of lifelong experience that I learned from UTM. I like hanging around with my Malay friends, spending time in studios, and even like when you all puasa, then we all went for this buka puasa. So this kind of ambience, this kind of atmosphere that I enjoy a lot in UTM. But talking about architecture growth, in terms of knowledge of architecture, I think, frankly speaking, I feel that the thing that sparked off my interest in architecture is really when I went to work in Singapore, when I joined a small firm, RT+Q. Architects, some of you might know about this firm. They did a lot of interesting buildings in KL. If you know about cables, the diagonal building, and also D6, D7, these buildings in Sentul which changed the skyline of Sentul. So I worked for that firm, and I worked for these few projects. Okay, let me show this. Okay, so you can see a lecture here. So this is myself, and you can see that this is a waiting entrance. This slide is actually I prepared for my wedding slides, because I think in a lot of these Chinese weddings we usually put up slides of to just just to show the friends that we know, usually during weddings. So I just pull out from my wedding slides and put it in this presentation. So you can see that we are kind of exhaustive. We are very tired because I think we just spent our days rushing for the presentation, and we are waiting. So these are the days. These are my days in UTM. So after graduating from UTM, I went to RT+Q Architect. So RT+Q Architect is actually a small boutique firm. Is around 20 to 30 people. So we did a lot of these boutique bungalows projects. As you can see from here, we did like bungalows. And I think when you are going to graduate, I think a lot of these questions might pop up in your mind. Whether I should join a big firm or small firm or whatever. So I would say, if you were to ask me, I would say you can go for a medium-sized firm. Too small, you won't learn anything because you don't have a clear guideline. Yeah, too big is too many hierarchies. You get to only do a small portion of work. So it's best for you to maybe go for a medium-sized firm for a few years, maybe 2 or 3 years. Get to learn from A to Z. This is how I pick up architecture, and luckily I have my mentor, which is Rene Tan here. This is my boss. So Rene Tan he set up his practice in Singapore, and in fact he's from Penang Preschool. So he's a very dedicated, very talented architect. I think he just won his Singapore President's Award last year. I think this year or last year. So from the projects that we did, we get to know a lot about how to deal with detailings. What I remember the most I spent around 3.5 years working in this firm, is every weekend, beside our Monday to Friday working days dedicated spent in the office, drawing up detailings, doing up the designs, we usually spend our Saturday morning starting from 7:30 in the morning. And in Singapore is so small, so we went from site to site because Rene has a lot of these ongoing projects, build projects, all scattered around Singapore cities. So from one place to another, every Saturday we spend the whole morning until maybe afternoon so going from this place to the other, and to check on the site progress. And as you know, I mean, different projects, they have their own different phases. So from there, we get to know, like from starting from groundwork, what are the issues from maybe in the midst of like ID, then how do you deal with the detailings, and from right down to this completion, how do you deal with the authorities. So these are, and you can see from here, he did a lot of sketches on site. So sometimes you draw on my book, and sometimes you just draw on the wall. So sometimes you need this kind of spontaneous response to the site because a contractor will ask a lot of questions, which some of it might not be reflected in our designs. It's not captured in the detailed drawings. So you have to do so. So sometimes, I mean, it's a good practice to even like pin up drawings, perspective on the wall, so that the workers will know your expectation and the kind of detailings that you want. So these are the kind of things that we did in RT+Q architects. So it basically gave me a solid kind of foundations because you get to know everything. I mean, from these small projects, you get to know, especially detailings, how do you express certain kind of detailing, how do you want to make the edges, all this. So you get to know all these things. So these are the few projects that I did, small projects. So usually what we did is actually small projects, bungalow projects. So this is my first project, my own projects. Basically, Rennie just came out with a small sketch. So I developed. I mean, I think it's good if you can get a kind of mentor that allows you to express. Sometimes, I mean, sometimes some of your bosses might be so dominant that you will be only his right hand man drafting up helping him to draft up CADing. But for this firm, luckily I got a chance to work with Rennie. He gave us flexibility, he gave us freedom to express. So for a lot of projects, he just asked us to just design and just handle the project. So even though sometimes you encounter problems, sometimes you make mistakes, he's okay. I mean, he allowed us not to make big mistakes, but at least he gave us opportunities and chances. So this is my first project in my life. Sorry. Then this is another big project for a family of 5. A big project, I think around 19,000 square feet for a family of 5. So this is the block for wife. Then at the center is, I think that's another view I didn't capture. It's a kind of a U shape. So one block is for wife, one block is for the husband, then the other block is for his daughter and also for his mother. So it's a big good class bungalow, and you can see the kind of detailing that he did yeah. Okay, so we also did, this is a D7. D7 is actually saw hall. You get around 7 stories, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 levels of saw hall, then one level of this FF. So we did the master plan of the central area for YTL. YTL is the developers. So we did D7, D6, capers, and finale. And we also did some proposal for this, but eventually I think YTL they went for Japanese architects for these parcels, but until now it's not been built, has not been built. But I think RT+Q managed to get these 1, 2, 3, 4 projects, and you can see that these capers, I think a few days ago they just went to Berlin to present to, I think for the World of Architecture Festival, I can't remember, but I think they presented it, but I don't know what's the result, but yeah, you can see that it's changing the skyline because of this kind of move. And what makes it interesting for this building is internal courtyard. sometimes you need to have this kind of developer that give you, I would say sometimes you need a developer that is not that commercial driven. If you want to maximize, if one developer, I mean, maybe you'll give to another developer, if they want to maximize plot ratio, all these spaces will be filled in. Yeah. So you really need to get a good developer that understand your design and allow a kind of freedom for you to express. So luckily, I think Rainy Tan, he has met with his good paymaster and also people that, I mean, Dato that is willing to let him to try something different for this area. So these D7, I'm part of the design team. D6 I'm the project architect. Then D7 I'm also one of the design team member. So you can see the kind of D7 facade study. So in RT+Q we did a lot of this sectional. It's useful because for sometimes, I mean, for a big building you need this kind of sectional portion studies. So not necessary for you to do the whole entire unfold perspective, but using this, this is sufficient, more than sufficient to let the developer and also the contractors, the supplier, to quote for the prices and know about your intention. So D7. I left RT+Q when this building is in its completion in 2010, and D6 is on its structure level 4. So these are the few. Actually, this is actually my portfolio that I brought for interview. So I just put it. So it's not meant for PPT, but at least you can see the kind of construction sequence and construction during the construction progress. And this is, sorry, it's a bit too blur. But these are the sections that we did for, yeah. So in RT+Q, every year we were given chances. I mean, the boss will pay for no, you have to pay for your flight tickets, but the boss will basically pay for the rest. And every year, I mean, the company will get to, and I think they still practice this until now. So I think for a person, for a staff who spend, I think 5 to 6 years there, I think you have gone through, you will definitely finish visiting all the famous buildings in the world. I mean, especially Le Corbusier's. Yeah. So until now, they still go to Europe every year. So if you want to try, then you can go to RT+Q. Okay, so these are my first Italy trip in Rome. Then this is in Firminy in France. So this is why I said it sparked off my interest in architecture, because in that 3.5 years, Rene has really taught me about architecture as a practice and also as a knowledge. Yeah. So yeah, this will be my years in Singapore, and this is just the start of knowing architecture. Yeah, so from Singapore, I go to China. So China is actually something that is not in my plan, in the very initial phase, because I think in 2010 when I get married, then I asked myself whether I should spend the rest of my days in Singapore. Then I told myself, no, I can't tahan. I mean, it's not my place. So I decided to try. I wrote a lot of letters, in fact, a lot of these love letters to, I think, 50 over firms in the world. In Europe, in Japan, I even sent, sorry, because I'm so naive and so, I think I just want to try. Because you won't, if you don't try, you won't know what's the outcome. So I even wrote letters to wrote an application letters to Tadando, Toito, all these people, all these firms. But I get zero reply. Only one firm replied me, a Danish firm, and I was so excited. That's the only chance that I got. So this Danish boss, he said, "Oh, you are in Singapore. I'm coming to Singapore. So why not we meet up?" So he just. We meet up in Singapore, but unfortunately he's looking for someone in Vietnam, not in I want to go to Europe. He asked me to go to Vietnam. So eventually it doesn't make up. So at that time I realized that it's not that possible, because at that time during 2009 to 2010, that was the economic crisis around the world. So Europe was hit seriously. So actually firms, a lot of firms have this retrenchment. A few of my friends in UK, they couldn't get jobs. They have to they have to, even one of my friends went to Thames River to do maybe those tour boats. I mean, waiter in the tour boats or whatever, so just to make a living. So they couldn't find jobs. So at that period of time, I suddenly have a kind of I just thought of maybe why not I try China. So I just wrote in, and all of a sudden I got a lot of reply. I think I got around 10 more than 10 replies asking me for interviews. So I told my boss, my boss Rainy Tan, said, "Sir, I want to go to Shanghai Expo," but in fact I actually dragged my luggage and went all the way to Shanghai, Beijing for interviews. So I got my job, landed a job in Aedas, and that's where I started off my life in China. So China, I think, yeah, China is a big topic these days. I think people will, even like you see a lot of Chinese developers coming in, but and yeah, a lot of you maybe you have not been to China, so you must be very curious about China. How's the country become so powerful these days? But yeah, in fact, during my time when I first enrolled in UTM in the early 2000s, I never heard of China's architecture. But now, 10 to 15 years, you start to see the emergence of good Chinese architect like Ma Yansong, like this Fei Chang Jianzhu or urbanists, they start coming out. So it's because of the rapid urbanizations in the country that give this generation of architects a lot of opportunities to do something that they want. Yeah. But of course there are a lot of cracks, but still there are also good architects that think about how architecture should be. In response to this kind of fast-moving society life. So based in China, so I got my job in Aedas. So the whole, maybe for some of you, you might not know or maybe clear about the Chinese history. This China has been, now is superpower, but maybe back in 30 years back, is still a poor country. So it's all because of this Deng Xiaoping. So Deng Xiaoping, let me show you a slide. So Deng Xiaoping, this is Deng Xiaoping in 1978. So he went to visit Tokyo. So from Tokyo, I think he took a train, a bullet train to Kyoto. So in the train, I think what is your feeling? Sitting in this train, because at that time, I think not many countries has this bullet train. So Deng Xiaoping said, the Shinkansen is faster than the wind. It's like it's pushing us to run. At this moment, we really need to run. So starting from 1978, China start to have this kind of revolutions, or this kind of you can see that a lot of these millionaires these days started. Like Wang Jianning, or maybe even like Wang Jianning, or maybe who's the Alibaba guy? Jack Ma. But Jack Ma is actually something a bit later. But the billionaire these days in China, they get how should I say it? It's because of this the market open up, and they get these opportunities. Okay, so so now these days, like bullet train. So bullet train is now is one of the. I mean, when I went to China in 2010, then something that touched me the most is actually bullet train, because with this bullet train, basically Chinese have a most complete network, where you can actually travel to Shanghai, from Shanghai to Beijing, and within a short time. So this boosts up their whole economy. So by 2020, it will be the largest network in the world. So this Shanghai in the 90s prefer a bed in Puxi rather than a house in Pudong. You can see Pudong is nothing there, but now and because of Deng Xiaoping, it becomes something like this over 20 years. So you can see the drastic change in China. So this is when I visited the tallest tower, the second tallest, this Shanghai World Financial Center. This is actually by Mori Developers. This is the chief architect or chief from the client side, a Japanese. So he showed us, he gave comparisons, because he also did Rongbunki Hill. He also did Rongbunki Hill in Tokyo. He said Rongbunki Hill took them a long 18 years to complete because of land issues. But Chinese being a communist country, so all this can resolve within a very short time. So for his building, the SWFC, the Kaipingqi, the can opener. So if it's not because of the economic downturn in the in 1997, it can be completed maybe in the early 2000s. But so it's been delayed because of the economic crisis. But still, it can be considered very fast constructions if we compare to the rest of the world. So these are a few projects I did in China, in Aedas. Aedas is a big company, a big architectural company in the world, one of the biggest. But at that time, I was recruited by them to basically as part of the design member team in their China operation, because they are starting to expand their operation in China. So a lot of times we did a lot of master plan, like maybe 2 weeks to work on. I just quickly show you this. So these are some of the high-rise project. This is in Shanghai. You can see, super high-rise projects, and master plan. Like master plan in Suzhou. So mixed development. We have a shopping mall, then hotel. So it's very prevalent, very popular in China, because every provincial government, they want to have results. So the quickest to get a good and fast result then is by construction. So you see a lot of construction happening in China, and a lot of this is just remain on drawing boards. So it's like 2-3 weeks you work on a design to help out the local government or the developer to convince the local government. So you just did designs, and after that, no news anymore, because it's just remain on drawing boards because of a lot of this hot air happening there. So nothing happened. So I joined Aedas in 2010. Then let me tell you, this is also like Wanda. I also did 2 schemes for Wanda. So Wanda is the biggest commercial developer in China. So basically for this kind of developments, they can do it within a year and a half, from land purchasing right up to finished construction. They can do it within a year and a half. You can see the speed of China. So it's amazingly fast. So, but because of fast-track constructions, so a lot of times, because they have their own local design institute, what we call LDI, 本地设计院. So most of the time when they engage foreign firms like Aedas, what we are required to do, what we are requested to do is just to help them to work out the facade. So it's just a template. I mean, they give you a template, then you just work out the facade. And for my experience in this project, when I send them the drawings, they never comment on the facade. They only comment about how big is the logo, how big is the screen, how is the. They only care about the anchor tenant logo. And so because for them, design is not as important. Yeah, for one girl. So the quality is not as good. In fact. So I spent a year and a half in Aedas. And in 2011, the first 2 quarters, we have a lot of projects. The team from 40 people expanded to 100. Then for the last 2 quarters of 2011, no projects. I'm lucky in the sense that I still have this project going right down to schematic. So I'm the one doing all the design, CADing, all this. When I finished this project, I was asked to say, Samuel, you can no need to lock in your overtime because we don't have any more overtime. No need to lock in your overtime in the computer, in the system. Then the second week, he asked me, my superior said, Samuel, you can go for a holiday for 2 weeks. Then the third week, he asked me, Samuel, you can go. So that's the reality in China because in 2011, 2012, the government has a very tight control because of the drastic development, the drastic booming, all this. So a lot of this is too much. So all of a sudden, I mean, the government try to control. So when they control, then a lot of these architects, they suddenly get no jobs. So this my first ever, I mean, retrenched. I mean, I got retrenched from Aedas because of, and in 2014, I mean, just tell you here, I mean, 2014 Aedas have another retrenchment from 120 right down to 20 people. So you can see that I still remember. I don't know whether one of you remember Professor Datuk Parida, Professor Pariwadi. Yeah, when we had our lessons with him, he always told us that architect is the last to, when economic boomings, architect is the last to enjoy the benefits. But when economic downturn, we are the first one who kena because of that's the reality that I have to tell you all. So but these are the few projects in Aedas that I work on. Even like this master planning, a lot of master planning. But I mean, sometimes you never get to know how life will bring you. Because of that, I got a job opportunities with CapitaLand. This is sometimes, I mean, it's a twist in life. So I got a job, and I got this job working with CapitaLand, a Singaporean developer, and I was assigned to Hangzhou. Hangzhou is the site, so maybe let me bring you to understand more about Hangzhou. So Hangzhou is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Then you get these tea plantations, all this, very nice. It's one of the famous scenic cities in the world. You get Tianhangjiang. So every August you get this. I mean, this is actually a river, a big river. So every August you can see tidal wave. So you can see a lot of people here. Just to see, it just happened at that particular few weeks in a year. Yeah. Sorry. So you get Hangzhou, you get a lot of famous enterprise, private enterprise like Taobao. Taobao, Zhifubao is all from Alibaba. And you get this Gili who bought over our Proton, so it's also from Hangzhou. And Wahaha is actually a famous, I think, beverage, drink company. I think before Wang Jianning, before Jack Ma, I think the richest man is actually from this company, Zhong Qinghou, I think, from Wahaha company. And this our company, I mean my ex-company, CapitaLand, we have this brand called Raffles City. I don't know whether how many of you know about Raffles City, but basically it's a brand started off in Singapore. So Raffles, being Raffles, so is from Singapore. So this developer, they venture into China market, I think since 30 years ago, and they have this Raffles City is their top brand. It's a kind of a mixed development that comprises of different programs. Is a new kind of developments that, because you need 24/7 different kind of programs, so it's best to put every programs into one development. So it's very common also. So my site is actually in, sorry, maybe I click. So my site is actually here, the Qianjiang New CBD. So this is the site. So this is the West Lake, and this is the river that I mentioned just now, the Qiantang River, where you can see the tidal. So actually this site is something like Putrajaya. So it's nothing. It has nothing in 2003. You only get to see, if you went there in 2003, you only see the Golden Globe, the Opera House, the hotel. In fact, hotel of over there. You can only see one building. So within 15 years, when you go over there now, is complete. Basically, it's complete with a lot of high rises, railways system is ready. So you can see, yeah, this is another example of Chinese speed. So this is our site, and because we are building high rise, I'm going to show you my project that I spent for the past 5 years, Raffles City Hangzhou, where I work with UN students from Netherlands. So I'm one of the design manager. I'm not the sole design manager. We have, I think, 3 design manager. So I'm one of them. Then we work with UN Studio on this project. So because of its high rise, it's twin tower like KLCC, so it's 250 meters high. So it is not allowed to build around Westlake, because Westlake there's a height control, because it's scenic, so there's a height control. So nothing go beyond, I can't remember how many meters, but all the high rise will be basically concentrated over here in the new area, just next to the river. So it's also one of the policies, the development planning of Hangzhou city. They want to move the city, like city expanding to the east over here, and also expanding the tourists. By having this, you also expand the tourists to the east, closer to the river. And yeah, this is why they have this new Putrajaya, so-called Putrajaya, in this Qianjiang new CBD. So you can see the site. The site is here. You can see this is well planned, but the road is big. It's not conducive for people to walk. But this is the kind of planning. You have a central boulevard where you have this. This is the International Conference Hall. Here, the Golden Globe, and this is the moon. This is the sun, and this is the moon. The Grand Theatre is the moon. So you have a central boulevard, and this is the future People Plaza, where all the local government departments, their office is here. So our site is very strategic. It's just right next to Hangzhou People Plaza. So this is our site, and it is also linked by one MRT lines, subway lines. So usually this, when Raffles City, when CapitaLand, they want to buy a land, it's very important that they get a piece of land that is adjacent to MRT, because this will guarantee the success of a project. Yeah. So you can see from here, 1995 is nothing, barren. Whenever you talk to the local there, they'll say that it's all paddy fields over there. So now 2016, you can see it's all well developed, a whole new change. and this is our project. This is our project right next to the People Plaza. So we get UN Studio. Ben Van Berger is the principal of UN Studio to design this project. So maybe I should let you have a look at one of the video. I don't know how. Yeah, maybe this will give you a better understanding about the project. Yeah, this is the movie clip that we did for our experience at our sales center. It's actually is together with the model behind. So you see nothing here, but it's actually there's a model because we put it in a screen, transparent glass. Yeah, and the model is right behind. You can see the model behind that. This is the office. That's all my present. Sorry. Okay. No. Okay. Okay. We continue. We just at the start of talking about Raffles City. So yeah, because we are all still students, maybe I elaborate more on the designs, even though I'm not the designers. Yeah. So UN Studios is the designers. I'm on the client side, so I'm the design manager. So why it comes. How the design come about is basically because of the site, and yeah, you can see from here. This is the People Plaza that I mentioned just now, and this is the intersection of the road. So how do you position the towers, and also how the tower it's twist at the top. So there's a reason behind it. So in terms of how we position our retail podium, basically for this. Maybe in the next few slides I will explain about the program. But let's talk about the overall massing first. This is the main entrance. So this is the central spine. This is actually the retail portion. So how it comes about is actually pedestrian and the pedestrian and also the vehicular the road the traffic. So we UN Studio position the podium. The main entrance to be here. You can see that 3 points. So they position the other two towers at these two ends. And in terms of this orientation of the plane and towers, is because of the view. Because right next to our site is actually the river. So you see why this floor plate is bigger and this is smaller. It's because of the program. Because usually for residential you need a smaller floor plate, and for offices, for all the bigger programs, you need a bigger floor plate. So we place our office at the bottom and the residential area, portion at the top. And because of the sight lines, you want to get the sight lines of the river, and also Westlake, it is oriented like that. And UN Studio also introduced kind of a urban contrapposto. So urban contrapposto is like this David statue of David. So one leg is standing firmly, then the other leg is like touching the ground. It's like touching. So you create kind of tension to your whole massing. And also the landscape. Okay, and also the programs in connection. This is important because in a lot of these, in a lot of these mixed development projects, usually it is developed in phases. So it's like phase one, I do my residential, and phase two, I do my commercial. Not many developers are willing to put in efforts and also dare to try this, to put all the programs into two towers, because it requires an immense, an enormous kind of investments, and the financial, your finance must be very strong to support this. So, but like what I said just now, 24/7. So it's good to have all the programs into one site, because you will guarantee. Day crowd, night crowd, you get day crowd, night crowd. So the whole, basically, is a small city by itself, with different kind of programs, crowd. Then these are the programs. We have 6 programs in total. So at the podium level, we have around 110,000 square meters, so around a million plus square feet for the retail. So we have two offices, low zone. Then this is only one zone, low zone. Then this is actually Conrad, the hotel, the top brand for Hilton. So these are the programs. And before going into my part, this is not actually my part. I didn't do my the structure and also the facade. But let me show you some of the engineering feats in this development. So for UN Studio design, there are 4 bridges here. So all these bridges, the longest is actually 74 meters. So it is quite a tough job for my engineers, for our engineers to work out how do you support the structure during construction. You can see the sequence. They build up a temporary structure here, then they build up scaffolding on temporary steel structure, and yeah, this is what the eventual, you need to tie back to the main building. So all these are using steel, a lot of it are using steel structure. You can see it's very complicated, a connection grid structure, and this is the eventual finished products. Then for this portion, this is actually from bottom up. So this portion, because of the sculpting, the shape sculpting, so this required, the engineers build up the standard floor plate here first. So for the remaining of this floor plate, they have to use steel structure to support all this floor plate, and this has to be done, I mean, from bottom to top. So you can see the sequence. So this is actually a small portion of it. I mean, it is just a small portion of the project, but this is actually give a lot of issues to the engineers to construct this. So you can see from here, you can see how how all this floor plate tie back to the main towers. And this is the finished products. And in our projects, there are, I think, around 13 to 14 different kind of facade system. So all these are using the UN Studio use Rhino, and eventually I think we get a B manager to use I think digital projects, kind of software from Frank Gehry, from Gehry's Technology to GT, to do all the facade, the calculation of the facade, all this unfold all the drawings. So there are around 13 to 14 different kind of facade, and according to my colleagues who's working on a curtain wall system, this is one of the most complicated facade in China. If you were to go to Shanghai, you have the tallest tower nowadays is done by Gensler, Shanghai Tower. So Shanghai Tower, our beam team, the team doing beam is I think 3 times or 4 times more than Shanghai Tower, because of this the form, the kind of a complicated form. And you can see all these are done by scriptings. I saw someone in UTM is using scriptings. So I saw someone, I mean, in one of the presentation over there, are using Grasshopper to do the scriptings. So these are all done by UN Studio using scriptings to do, because every panel is different. So you really need to use Grasshopper to do it, Grasshopper or Rhino to do it. So even back in my days in Aedas, like what I told some of you, we even get the Aedas company, they even get a mathematicians girl to come over to do the scriptings. So it is a new technology that maybe your generation should master. Yeah. So these are all different panels with different angles. So this I don't understand, sorry, but these are the things that we have gone through. And these are the mock-up. I mean, you can see, I mean, every time we did a mock-up, first you can see the mock-up in the very beginning. There's a lot of these perforations. This is one of UN Studio intention, but we optimize it. Usually we have a visual mock-up, then an on-site mock-up, and before construction. This is the eventual piece. And here, and all this for the podiums, these are all installed panel by panel. So there are overall, I think, almost 30,000 panels, and it's of, I think, around 3 to 4 types system. Because of the shape, you can see here, you can see transition here. Because of the shape, it's not flat. So you need this kind of different system to accommodate the changes of the form. So let me come to retail mall, which is I spend most of my time working on this. So retail mall would be, okay, let me show you the plan. So retail design, if one day if I were to give, because CapitaLand basically they are good in retail, so they have a set of stringent guidelines to follow. So I mean, for a basic guideline for retail is no dead corners. I mean, everyone you need to, I mean, every shops you need to be need to be seen at every corner. So this is very important. So for UN Studio, they are very clever. They put the 2 towers here, like what I said just now. Then they create a spine, a central spine. So this would somehow create a, I mean, from here to here is just around 100 meters. So it's actually a a very comfortable walking distance. And we have different skylights. This is the north skylights and the central skylights. So this gives a distinct place marking to every space. So you can see that because retail, what is important about retail is about the shop front, and what the sizes. So and some of the, like for instance the F&B, you might not may not be necessary for you to have a long shop front, but maybe you need a bigger space. So most of the F&B would be placed around here, which have a deep space for F&B. So this is how we place most of our F&B is here and at the tower, at the bottom of the tower, and all our retails is actually along the spine, along the central spine. So you see, just as I mentioned, there is different voids for place marking. This is the central void. Then we have vertical void, and we have a diagonal void. Why we have all these voids and especially diagonal void is to let people, visually connected. So it's from this end you can actually see towards the other end. There's a connections. Yeah. So this cleverly designed by UN Studio. And with these different voids, we try to UN Studio try to make it distinctively different. By doing some different treatment on the void edge. So we have all these are anodized aluminum. So all these are so from one end you can see this is the pink color. This is actually the glass. So glass has a bigger portion at this area. But when it comes to central void, it's all the void edge is actually all aluminum panels. So this is the retail central void. So let me maybe bring you into the construction of this. Because we have explored a few different kind of materials, but eventually we decided to use anodized aluminum because of its the reflection, the kind of crispy kind of effect that it gets, and but it poses a challenge to the contractor because it's not that easy. Because now you see that it's kind of like flat and seamless, but in actual fact, it's like all these are connected. Constructed panel by panel. So it's not that easy because usually panel by panel, our requirement to the contractor is actually just 3 mm gap. So it's not that easy to construct. So you see the internal connectivity of all the voids. You see, some of the intention. So this from aerial view, you'll see that the escalator are being placed separately, in a staggered form, to create a kind of dynamism in the design, in the movement of the buildings. And you can see this is the central void. So when you stand here, then you can look. When you look outwards, you can see the two towers. So then you can get a sense of connectivity of this form. This form is somehow related to the towers. So these are some of the construction progress that we when we review our drawings. Like for instance, this done by UN Studio. So it's very schematic. They didn't consider the steel plate that need to connect different kind of steel beams. So during this beam optimization stage, they will come up with this checking. Then they will know that this has problems. Then they will come up with feedback, and the designers will basically change their design to meet with the construction requirement. And even like beam is used to check, like for instance, we have tilted columns at the central voids, and sometimes this tilted column is a pair. So sometimes this beam this column connect from here to here, but somehow in the process this column is like connect from here to the other column. So all this is without using beam or without using a 3D software, you can't notice. So this is the use of beam. So this is the central void in the process of making. These are all the columns, big columns. You can see the plate. Yeah. So how it takes formations, and because of this project, the ID contractor need to learn how to use Rhino. So they have no choice, because the US Studio required. This is one of our requirements to the ID contractor. If you want to get my job, then you need to use Rhino. You need to use some kind of a 3D software because US Studio they will check on the 3D model first before coming out with the set of drawings. So this is entirely built by the ID contractor. So the Chinese contractor these days is quite good. And these are some of the design optimization where you can. This is actually because of the constraint of the materials. So in the process, sometimes the design will change because of the material requirement, the constraint from the materials. Like for instance, this one. This is our very initial intent from US Studio, where they want to have a seamless surface, whereby the column and the void edge is connected within each other. But throughout the process, we think that it's too difficult. It's too difficult to do that because of because the panel comes in a certain size, and sometimes you cannot bend. If more than, I think if you want to bend a panel of an anodized panel, the radius must be at least 1 meter, to avoid, because if not, then you see stretching all these unwanted stretch on the edge. So this is the optimized options that we did for, yeah. And like what I said just now, these are the communication process that we did during the design optimizations. All this is done by the ID contractor. Then US Studio will use their model to overlap to check the discrepancy, because contractor they will have their own opinion, because some of the proposal made by US Studio cannot be constructed, and sometimes they have to do the site marking, the site measurement. The contractor has to do the site marking, and they construct based on the site constraint and measurement. So this where using Rhino, using BIM is quite useful to do all this revision and checking. So this is the paper mockup. On that small mockup, good effort from the contractor to do paper mockup. And this is the full-size mockup. You can see that in the very beginning we want to tilt this panel, but when we tilt, you see I don't know how should I say it in English, but you see a white marking here, a stretch, because the panel is like overdone. So eventually we decided to make it flat. So this is the column design after our value engineering. So this is flat, and this is separated from the void edge to make construction easier. And yeah, from developer side, I mean, for the past 5 years, I've been spending times on site dealing with construction, and I mean sometimes you have to be thankful to the people who really did all these dirty jobs, all these real jobs, because it's not that easy. So you can see that usually they, like what I said just now, they did site measurements. Then because of time constraint, they cannot have the fabrication in the factory. They have to do it on site where the environment is very dirty. So so they have no choice but to do it on site. Then they also, yeah, these are all the installation progress. So one thing about having this anodized aluminum venue, next time when you work is try not to use anything beyond 1.5 meters, because UN Studio they have specifically requested to use 2 meters. So in the market, there's only one supplier that can do it. It's from German, a company called Raffles. And when the supply, the panel supply is not, we face a problem. We encounter a problem on site is the supplier didn't send in the panel on time. Basically, we have to wait doing nothing for 2 months, and it wasted our. We have to pay penalty to the contractor because the contractor has set up all this scaffolding, and they give us a time limitation to actually dismantle it. And because of the supply is not in time, we cannot do the installation work. Then all this has to be put on hold. Then we have to pay penalty to the contractor. So that's the lessons that we learned from this. So try to avoid having too big panel to being too big. Yeah, these are the people that unsung heroes that I salute them. And this is among us. I mean, this is the contractor. This is our project team people. Then this is my superior. So all of us actually, we are. I mean, having this before the scaffolding took down, we have a final check on all these light fixture, because we want to make sure everything is in place. Because once the thing dismantled down, we know it's very difficult to go up again. Yeah, even though we have this BNU, these maintenance units to do it, but still it's very difficult. So we have to make things. We have to ensure things are in good place. So this is the overall view of our central void, which is actually the main feature of our retail podium. Then this is the completed final products of our, that you can see from here. The 2 columns, twisted columns, go all the way up, and the staggered escalators that you saw just now. This is one of the voids. This is actually one of the very first void that we completed. So we are very happy, and we have a group photo with together with UN Studio. Then this is in operation. I think I asked my ex-colleague to take some pictures a few months back when the mall is in operations. These are the interior. This is one of the voids. These are all the light bulbs for volumetric space. So these are all using Barasol. And all these you can see the railing. The railing is continuous from floor to floor. So you get this is what is intended by the architects, to get a kind of a continuous movement for the voids. Yeah, this is one of it. Then retail entrance. So retail entrance is the other features. Yeah, this is during doing small mock-ups where we have light box. We are using stainless steel panel. Then we are using eventually And the contractor came up with a better ideas of basically gluing the panels onto the glass. Because if not, we have to have a lot of these connection details. Yeah. So office lobbies. Office lobbies is also the other features for, because a lot of these UN Studio, they want to create a continuous kind of a gesture for all the form making. So from the external, the external of the bridge body, the bridge that you saw just now, the underside of the bridge is actually stainless steel panel. So it also comes into the space, the lobby space itself. These are some of also using Rhino to basically craft out the openings. So all this by using Rhino, you get a precise different kind of basically you can get very easily get a precise quantity of different elements, different components. So it's very easy for the contractor to follow up. So these are some of the optimizations. Like for instance, using UN Studio wants to have a very natural timber veneer to clad over to make all these boxes. But in actual fact, when you fold the timber veneer, all the edges are ugly, so it's not good. So eventually we use something. It's too late for us to use 3M sticker because 3M sticker is the other option, but it's expensive. So eventually we use kind of a timber lookalike print on timber panel. It's cheap. Maybe some of you may not like it, but the effect still are still quite. I mean, the effect is still quite convincing. These are the completed. And also the other, this is another office lobbies. These are the first one is actually using timber lookalike effect. Then the other one we are using metal. So we are using US Studio has proposed to use anodized as well, anodized aluminum panel. But because of its difficulty, because you can see a lot of this band, and anodized panel you have to dip inside for the anodization process. So when it comes out, then you have to bend all this. You will not see a good end products. So eventually we use these chlorofluorocarbons to replace as a substitution to anodized panel. So you see this. So all this pre-installation, they band all this first. Then the contractor brought all this to site. Then they install it pieces by pieces to check if there's any discrepancy. After that, once confirmed, once knowing there's no problem, they dismantle it again and go back to the factory and work out on the anodizations or the fluorocarbons process. So it's quite tedious for the contractor to do so. Yeah, this is the eventual products. So in the end, even after they install it, after having visual mock-ups or after even like doing samples, but eventually we still get two different colors on site, two different kind of tones, which is quite obvious. So we asked the contractor to anyhow to rectify it. So in the end, they asked the guy like using spray paint to basically touch up the whole entire space, entire aluminum panels. So this is the end products. Yeah, you can see here this portion, the lower portion, is where you can touch. So it's actually of one panel. Then they just do what do you call it, aging to create the line. Then this one, the second portion, is actually having two layers overlap to each other. And the final, the tallest, the highest portion is actually pieces by pieces. they connect by pieces install it. So it's yeah, it's something quite interesting. This is the end product, which is quite. I mean, for me, we are quite satisfied with the effect. Okay, it comes to the end of my long presentation. So basically, I'm quite thankful that I spent my 5 years this project from the start to completion. Actually, next year, this year I came back to Malaysia after I complete the mall and also the office portion. But the eventual completion of the whole entire buildings, including the hotels, all this will be next year. So from next year is 2001-8, and this project started off 2008. So it's been a 10 years project. It's been a 10 years long project. So it's something. I mean, a lot of us spend, like my senior manager, this lady, spent 8 years in one project. So it's not easy. It's not easy. I mean, sometimes we have been towards the end of my projects, because I spent 5 years. When I reach my 4th year, I start questioning myself, because architects, they get to do a lot of different projects. But for us, we are dealing with side issues every day, and still doing the same thing, and it's like never ending. And sometimes you will question yourself whether it's worthwhile to stay on to this project. But eventually I pull it through. I managed to complete at least my portion, and I'm thankful for my persistence also, and also thankful to all the team members, because every one of us have our different responsibility. So it's a team effort. So this been I would say this been one of my pinnacle in my career, and I'm glad that I spent my days meaningful in China. And this is the I never, during my years in university, high-rise building is something that I dislike a lot. I don't know how to design high-rise, but yeah, after this project, I'm doing another high-rise now. So yeah, so I would want to say, maybe there are a few things that I want to share with you all. I think through this, hopefully you'll find that it's meaningful, and hopefully you find today I give you some hints or some inspiration in the things that you want to do in the future. Because I think Forrest Gump have this life is a box of chocolates that you never know what you will get in the end. And I think this is what I feel about my life in architecture, because if without trying, then I will not know how much can I do. So if I didn't try myself, didn't make an effort to try to apply overseas, then I will not get to build this project. So this is something that I hope you all can do in your later after graduation. I think if possible, try to just go to overseas, try your luck, work for a few years, then come back. Yeah, this is what I want to convey my message. Yeah, that's all. Thanks.